Editorial Review for Beginners. This is the fourth chapter of Bookworm 101 by R.L. Zareva, narrated by Rihanna Powell. The copyright of the book is owned by Compendia Publishing, all rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopying, recording, or otherwise, without the prior written permission of the copyright owner. No part of this publication may be used to develop and/or train artificial intelligence models, systems, or technology, with no exception for any AI-related uses that fall under the category of fair use or general purpose AI. No part of this publication that has been made publicly available online may be used in general web scraping, text or data mining practices, and/or any AI-related transformative uses. First published in the digital version on January 1st, 2025 with ISBN 978-196-3038-378. The audio version is published with ISBN 978-196-3038-408. There has been a recurring discourse on social media about whether the book reviewing process can be a paid service or should remain a voluntary activity. Are any of you familiar with the following questions? 1. Is it ethical to get a paid review? 2. Is it legal to pay for a book review? What mostly has not been elaborated is the type of review in the discourse. There are customer or user reviews, editorial reviews, and peer reviews. The customer reviews are also known as user reviews. This topic will be further elaborated in the next two chapters. For now, we will discuss editorial and peer reviewing processes. The editorial review is common practice in the publishing industry, research and development (R&D) programs, and journalism. This chapter hopefully can be beneficial if any of you want to pursue a career in one of those fields. Editorial reviewing in R&D programs is part of the peer review process. In the editorial review phase, it is about how the written work clearly communicates the value. The reviewer mostly focuses on how the clarity potentially gives comprehension to different types of users or readers. Not all of the readers are customers. The peer review phase focuses on technicalities and applicability. This is when the written work is evaluated as being valid and whether it can be relied on, and most importantly, how the values within can be applicable in operations or the everyday world in general. Not everyone or random individuals can review those non-fiction books, research reports, or journal publications. The reviewer needs to be either academia in the same or related field of study, licensed or certified practitioners in the field, or industry experts. It may or may not be ethical to pay for those editorial review and peer review services. The type of institution or business and the requirements of professions determine the ethics of the reviewing process. Every R&D program has its own standard of structure, list of content, and formatting for the reviews. Even different industry fields or studies have their own standards than others. By the fact that I'm neither an expert in all industries nor in all fields of study on the planet, I shall not give further guidelines on this type of editorial and peer review. Journalists are to conduct their work within the Code of Ethics in Journalism. Imagine columnist A, who has the qualifications in the field of study around the subject of the book being reviewed. Journalist B had enough experience in that particular industry before working for a media company. Both, when they work in a team, may or may not be considered peers or experts to review the book. Their small team may even be considered a review board of its own. In journalism, the senior or middle editor is the one who does the editorial review of an article manuscript. Then, it is an editorial review process of an editorial review article of a book. These professionals work independently and then get paid by their media company. By that, the book reviewing process becomes paid labor, as in employer-employee compensation. Can the editorial review article be classified as an indirect paid review? That depends on one's perception. For print media, the word count heavily depends on the allocated space or block, the type of font, and the spacing are standardized by the media company. One time, the column needs to be filled with more words. At some other time, one article needs to be edited to fit the space. In digital media, the word count requirement may vary. Some companies factor in user interface and user experience throughout the article. The user interface relates to all the elements being displayed on the online article. The layout of the text, images, stickers, and other elements is to retain the reader's viewing time on the article's page. The user experience is about the reader's engagement with the article being published, i.e., likes, comments, and shares. Eventually, it can lead the readers towards a book being reviewed or push the readers backwards from it. It may become a grey area when a published author provides a paid editorial review service for another author's book. Even when the category or trope is similar to what the reviewer writes, it needs more careful consideration of whether or not the editorial review can be a paid service. If we compare it with reviewing practices in R&D, the editorial review of a book may or may not be under the peer review umbrella. One commenter replied to me on social media saying that it should be the publisher who pays the editorial review service. The author should not. That particular comment alone surely can find us another rabbit hole to dig. The more days pass, the more self-published books we have to enter the market. Some of the authors might be publishing as individuals. Some others might self-publish under a registered business entity. Not all of the self-publishing companies plan to become independent publishers to publish others' works. Some of those companies remain to only publish the business founders' works. Here we are, leading ourselves further and deeper in the discourse. 1. On behalf of the author's self-publishing company, will the author be considered as unethical for hiring and compensating editorial reviewers? 2. On behalf of the business entity, is it considered ethical that a self-publishing author pays for the editorial review services? Putting a signature on a document or contract on behalf of the company is different than signing it as an individual. I shall leave you, the readers, with the open-ended questions above. Whatever the answers will be, eventually they'll lead us to further discourse. How do we separate the artist from the art when the artist is producing and publishing art on behalf of a company? More about the creator economy will be covered later in this book. Each publisher has its own marketing and sales strategies. Obtaining editorial reviews is often one of them. Choosing which editorial review service provider to hire is sometimes a sales strategy no longer on the marketing side. It can also help procurement or acquisitions divisions of libraries make decisions on which book to carry. Not all libraries receive huge funding. One provider has a different demographic audience than others. After reading editorial reviews by the service provider they trust, the library might be able to make decisions with more sufficient data. This is when the readers who become editorial reviewers play an important role in the community. Service providers set their word count requirement for the reviewers. Some set 200 words, 300 words, or 400 words. Some even set a 15-minute video. The requirement increases or decreases in alignment with the provider's track records in the industry. The rate for services also vary, both from provider to publisher and from provider to reviewers. It can also be because of the number of experts available to review compared to the number of publications in a particular subject or category. Not all books are being accepted by the service provider. It can be because of the availability of their human capital, the category of the book that does not align with their brand or audience, or simply because the time is too close to the publication date. The publisher either keeps the editorial reviews as documentation or publishes them on their website. The key points are often printed as a quote on the back cover of the book being published. This is one of the reasons providers commonly set the time limit prior to the publication date. In the hardback journal version, there are spaces for journalists to practice writing editorial reviews. Everyone starts running by taking their first step as a baby, including me. Even one might start walking as a baby, while others start as toddlers. The editorial review that I do for my colleagues' work is within the process of technical writing issuance for the specific field of work. Even though that is part of my duty in my main job, I do not, and am not supposed to provide any editorial review service for written works for other industries. Please do not compare yourselves to where I am today, not as an editorial reviewer in my areas of expertise, nor as a published author for the general public. Imposter syndrome is not worth anyone's time. To end this chapter, I shall leave the judgment for the ethics of conduct to each industry and the legality of operational practices to the governing body of each region. None of the judgments about the said paid services are mine to pass. Image 4.1 Editorial Review Template.